Well, a good day to you, Pastor Joel Slyde. We've got Pastor Joel Slyde here in our recording studio, and we're going to talk a little bit about some projects that he has been doing throughout his career and where he's at currently and what he's involved with. But more specifically, a very interesting project that he has been involved with in Ukraine, I believe, during the war. So, Pastor Joel, welcome to Adventist Radio Pretoria.
Yeah, thank you. It's so good to be here, and thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
Oh, very well, thank you. I've had a great weekend here in Pretoria, really enjoying my time.
Is this your first time in South Africa?
It is actually, yeah. It's been a warm welcome.
Oh, excellent. And how's the jet lag been?
Look, the jet lag wasn't as bad, but I've only been here 2 days, and I'm probably leaving a couple of kilos heavier. You guys have fed me really well over the weekend, so yeah, really enjoying it so far.
All right, and If you can just give a short introduction of yourself to our listeners, here's your chance. You're from Australia, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working as a pastor in Australia for the last 9 years. Before that, I was studying theology, and I come from the Gold Coast, which is just under Brisbane on the east coast of Australia. And yeah, I had a real interest in mission work here in Africa for a number of years. And yeah, so finally got some time now to be able to complete a project over here in Zambia. And we'll be moving from Zambia down to Namibia as well, looking to establish a project there for an organization that I'm working with called Outpost Centers International. So yeah, really enjoying the opportunity to be here. It was easy to fly from Sydney over to Johannesburg, and was able to connect through some friends with the guys here in Pretoria. So really glad to have the weekend here. But really looking forward to getting up to Zambia.
Excellent. And before we continue, what fuels your passion for mission? Can I ask that question? Can you maybe briefly tell us what makes you mission focused?
Yeah, good question. So when I was young, I remember just looking for direction in life. When I was around 18, I was finishing high school, and I remember really just considering, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to go? And what contributions am I going to make to society? And God placed a really strong calling on my life at that stage. And yeah, I believe that our life here can have meaning and value well beyond the years that we're given, when we're investing in eternity and when we're inviting people to experience what God is offering them by partnering with Him to grow His kingdom. I believe that our lives can have a far bigger impact than what we could ever imagine without God in our lives. And so, since that point, since that realization, I've invested my life to a serious degree in not only seeing God's kingdom realized in my own life, but inviting others to experience the same. And that's taken me to many situations and experiences all over the world, which has been a real blessing for me.
I love that, and I love the dual focus you have there on both outward growth in society, your contribution to society, but what that also contributes to your own life, inward growth, if I can put it like that. I don't know if I can label it outward growth, but you get what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really like that focus that you bring in there. I want to shift gears a little bit and move towards your project that you did in the Ukraine. I believe it is during this turbulent time they're experiencing, and how that can we also bring in that focus maybe when you talk about that, about the outward and the inward growth and your experience there, just your general experience, and also maybe share some of the experience of others, how they have felt with you being there and your ministry there. Can you maybe speak to that for us, please?
Yeah, for sure. So before I get into that, I was able to visit the Ukraine in March 2023. Still ongoing conflict and a lot going on over there. But yeah, the reason why I had an opportunity to visit, because it's not kind of on everyone's list at the moment of places that they want to visit, given that there is active conflict. And so when I was based in South Australia last year, I was working with youth development programs and had a lot of access to resources there.
Okay.
And because of the displaced people, there's been over 6 million people displaced due to the conflict in Ukraine. and a number of them found themselves in Adelaide, in the city that I was living.
Okay.
And so we ended up connecting with the Slavic community there, and they were really hands-on in receiving refugee families.
Was sorry to interrupt you there, Pastor. Was this an Adventist community, or was it just a general?
Yeah, no, it was
Slavic community.
The Slavic community that were represented. They rented out a room at the cultural center and would just promote their culture through dance and food and that sort of thing. And so we connected with them with the intention of looking for ways to be able to support the refugee community and displaced peoples. And they were really open to collaborating. We came up with some funding to be able to provide opportunities for refugee families and displaced families to go on an outing. We have a summer camp facility there that we were able to utilize to be able to provide some activities. And
wonderful for the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so the reason why we did that was just to kind of break down some barriers, introduce ourselves, and that really created some relationships where we were able to then help. So one of the ladies that we were able to connect with on that day, young, late 20s, had a 13-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, and she was able to escape on foot 13 kilometers. They traveled
on foot
with just a backpack through the snow to escape the conflict early in 2022. And so, yeah, you can imagine this young mother with her children and her mother, were able to go to Moldova. They came to Australia soon after, just a couple of weeks later. And then, she's there trying to raise their family. Her husband's back fighting in the conflict or caught up in the conflict in some way. And so, it was really interesting to be able to connect with her. She was having to move houses and had no capacity in and of herself to be able to transition to other accommodation. And so, some members from our church community were able to come alongside and support her with transportation and helping her source furniture that she needed and that sort of thing. And that was just one opportunity of when we were able to draw close and build friendships. Need arose and became evident, and we were able to step in and be a meaningful help to them at that time in need. And so, that was a blessing. And so through those relationships, became quite interested in the work that was happening over there in Ukraine and realized that there was a lot of need. And so, earlier this year, I was able to step in through some contacts that I had in Poland that I knew that were quite active in the work over there. They were on the ground.
Were these Adventists in Poland?
Correct, yeah.
All right.
So the Adventist Church in Poland was very active in receiving a lot of those 6 million displaced people had to come through Poland. And so, you can imagine the situation with so many desperate people, frantic people trying to flee the war. There were companies that were coming in and exploiting them. They were charging hundreds of euro just to take them 20 kilometers across the border to a nearby kind of refugee facility, and just charging exorbitant amount of money for this short journey. And so the church stepped in and we were able to rent some coaches. They were going into these conflict affected areas and bringing people out for free. And then through the network of the church, we're able to find accommodation and emergency support for them.
Good.
And so that was the need at the start of the war. And then, since the conflict had been going on for, at least a year, at the point that I got involved, we were able to, through those networks, then go further in. We visited a city called Kherson, and that's in the southeast of Ukraine, near Crimea, which is kind of a big part of what the conflict was over. And so we actually went to the active front to visit a church there and provide some support. So we brought a van over from Poland, fully stocked with supplies that the church had donated over there. And then through that, those relationships that we were able to form with the local church, we've been able to further support the work that they're doing. So I was really inspired to see that in the midst of this conflict, like literally this city has been occupied by Russian forces for several months of the conflict. The people there have endured incredible hardships over the last 12 months during this conflict. And so to step in and see just the resilience and just the incredible community that they've formed around the church is still very active. They weren't running away. They're there actively looking to meet the needs of the community, which are very evident at this point in time. And so, even though I'm not there right now, still in contact and looking for more ways to be able to support and further utilize those networks to improve the not only the effectiveness of the church there to meet the needs of the community, but also to personally be involved in building some of those and sustaining some of those relationships that we formed.
Excellent. And you said you were on the forefront of this conflict at a certain point. How was that emotionally impacting you as a missionary? And also, how did you impact others emotionally, if I can ask such a question?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I just reflecting on that, it was certainly an intense period for me. I've never been exposed to anything like that before. And so, I probably wasn't as prepared emotionally for what I was going to experience that day. But yeah, certainly. So at one point, the Russian forces had been pushed across a river, and so there was just a river. It was quite a small river actually, separating the Ukrainian side from the Russian side. And so we actually went down and visited a family just a street back from that river. So we got very close to the actual front, and there was heavy artillery being fired overhead and that sort of thing. But it was interesting because for me, I was quite jumpy. I was really nervous and really on edge for a lot of the time. And understandably so, not having experienced that before. And the locals kind of got a bit of a kick out of that. They were laughing at me and seeing how jumpy I was. They've been living in these kind of conditions for almost a year now. And so, it was quite humorous for them. But it was interesting just connecting with a number of families there. So first of all, the need has arisen from the fact that the government stopped handing out pension and kind of any support during this time once the conflict started. And
is this more for economic reasons, or can't you comment on this?
Of course, yeah. So they obviously needed to focus on the war efforts, and that required them to be able to raise funds quickly, I guess. And so you've got this really marginalized or group of people within the community that can't provide for themselves, that they're past the opportunity to work for an income and that sort of thing, and not that there's any work available right now for them. And so you've got disabled people, elderly people, these kind of people that are just living in absolute destitution, to the point where I saw one lady, and I'm sure there's many others, literally going through a rubbish heap looking for food and this sort of thing. And so, you can imagine the level of desperation that the people are experiencing at this point in time. And so we were going around delivering some food. We came across this one family that the church put us in contact with, elderly lady who was bedridden, disabled, and her husband who was barely mobile. We took them some food, and they were just so thankful for the visit. But more than the food, which they really did need, but they expressed to us just this idea, like, I'm coming from Australia, right? Like, what business do I have there? And I'm with this Polish guy. And so it was more the fact that we'd taken time to be able to come and just spend even just a couple of minutes with them to deliver some food. It's that kind of sentiment of, wow, there's people outside of even my country, even my people, that care about me and that want my good and want me to survive. And I think that's the kind of spirit that we went with, and a number of conversations that we were able to have with not only members of the church, but members of the community there, that we were able to support. It's just that idea that someone other than me or my immediate family care about me and that want my good. And I just think that's that's a message worth sending in any capacity, in any area of society. Is just that someone else cares. Someone else cares about what I'm going through. Someone else cares about my situation, and they want my good, and they believe that I'm worth investing in. I just think that that's a gospel-centered message, and yeah, that's really the message of heaven in what Jesus communicates to each of us, is that we are worth it. We are worth going to great lengths to be able to do something to support and help and step forward in times of need and crisis.
Pastor Joel, I hear a lot of Christ method in what you're saying, ministering first to the needs of people. Maybe first, I don't know if I can add this reaching out, which you did, and then you see the need, you minister to that need. I don't know if I'm extending Christ method now, but when you've ministered to that need, then you can make friends then, and then you can ask or bid them follow Christ. As a missionary and your experience in mission work, how do you balance sharing the gospel and making that almost the aim of the project versus just ministering to people where they're at and what they need?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think it's an interesting idea that you're presenting there, and maybe something that has been a barrier for a number of people maybe engaging in this work or receiving support or that sort of thing. Oh, they're just doing it for a hidden agenda or something like that. But look, I think that the agenda is very simple, and that is to extend compassion, love, and mercy where we can, where the opportunity arises. And so, look, I think that Christ's ministry is incredible. He comes into people's homes, into their lives, into their workplaces, and brings about transformation. And so I would love to see that. Now, the opportunity that I have to deliver a box of food or something like that, that's going to meet their needs for a period of time. And I still think that that's worth doing. Like, even though they'll get hungry again, even though that need will still be there when I leave, I think it's still worth alleviating that for a period of time as much as we possibly can. But at the same time, it still leaves the person in a situation where they are still wanting more and needing more. And I believe that it's that combination of not only meeting physical felt needs now, but also extending an opportunity to have the deeper core needs met, which is what Christ is offering to each one of us. I think that that is where the real value lies. And so, yeah, I agree that there is a balance. I certainly, in a lot of the situations that I find myself, the goal isn't to proselytize or to convert people to my particular denomination or anything like that. I think meeting need for the sake of meeting need is worthwhile in and of itself, but that ultimately builds friendship. It ultimately builds rapport, and through that vehicle, we are then able to communicate the gospel effectively. And I don't think we have any right to try and communicate the gospel when we haven't taken the time to understand where people are and what they need. And so I think that it's the gospel is best communicated. The best vehicle for the gospel to be communicated is through relationship. And I believe that the best way to build relationships is simply by taking an interest and meeting needs where we can. And so I think it is a winning formula. I think it is something that we can all take and apply to our own situation. Now, maybe we don't have the opportunity to visit Ukraine this year, but certainly there are needs of those around us, and even within our own home, within our own family, within our own school or university or workplace or whatever a subset of the community we find ourselves in, there are needs ever present around us. And by taking a moment to focus on the needs of others and look to alleviate that in some way, it makes way for relationship. And with that relationship, we then have an opportunity to communicate to the deeper core needs, which is, where are we going? What's all this about? Do I have a sense of belonging? Do people care about me? And ultimately, Christ answers all of these questions by saying, I love you. I care about you. I created you for a purpose. And I've got more in store for your life than you could ever imagine. And
I love that.
Yeah, I'm inviting you into an eternal reality that doesn't have to end here and now. One of the things that I found really interesting in Ukraine was these guys are living with a constant sense that their life might be over very soon.
Wow.
That they're living with this heavy reality. They're faced with their mortality every single day. And one of the things that does is naturally crystallizes for us what is important. It begs us to ask the question, why am I living? What am I doing that is of value to those around me? Because if I pass today, what I've got in my bank account doesn't matter anymore. What I was doing for work doesn't matter anymore. It's the investment that I've made in the people around me that really count and go beyond my life here and now. And so I just think that living with that understanding, living with that reality that I won't be here forever, but using today, using the opportunity that I have before me to be a blessing to those around me, I just think that sets us up for success, and that we can find meaning far beyond our years by taking that approach to life.
I love how you bring this home, Pastor Joel, by emphasizing that people can also make a difference where they're at. I really like that. And then I like what you bring in as well with that, or another element or another thing, the future look. What does the future hold? I mean, we can live for the here and the now, and we can do the day to day, but the deeper questions of what impact am I leaving, what legacy am I building, and not only that, what is the meaning of my purpose, or what is the meaning of my life here? What is the purpose of me being here? Both towards other people, but let's first start with God and then other people. I want to ask the question, people might be listening to this on air or a podcast or however they're listening to it, and there might be some thinking, I wanna support and also get involved in the work there in Ukraine, but they might not be able to go there physically. What options are there available for them through various organizations and networks inside and maybe also outside of the Adventist Church? But let's maybe have the focus more inside the Adventist Church. What opportunities are there for supporting, maybe financially, and other opportunities? Do you maybe have some advice for the listeners?
Look, I think it's a good question. I think it's a fair question, but I'd honestly be redirecting those resources to where God has you today. I think that obviously any organization that you support and the work that the church is doing over there is incredible. And on their behalf, I'll certainly say that there are some really meaningful projects that you can get behind over there. But at the same time, I would encourage you to look for need within your own community, look for need within your own sphere of influence, because I believe that God has placed you in your workplace, in your home environment, where you are today, for a purpose, and that purpose goes far beyond your own pleasure. And so, look for that need and look for those opportunities, in your community, and take that time, whether it's just to invite someone over for a meal or just get to know someone that you know, is maybe going through a challenging time right now. I think putting your energy and time and resources into that would be just as beneficial. But obviously there is an ongoing conflict over in Ukraine, and so if you do desire to support, there's a number of organizations that you can find to be able to do that. So
okay, Pastor, final question, and it's two-pronged. If you can give one message to South Africa, to the world, and Christian, non-Christian, Adventist, non-Adventist, what would that message be? And the second part of the question, where do you see yourself? What's next for Pastor Joel Slyde?
Good question. I think one simple message is very simple, and that is just to follow Christ's example in our life, to get to know him on a personal level. Christ has moved literally heaven and hell in order to build and provide an opportunity for us to build a relationship and be in relationship and connection with him. I believe that we've all got a core need to love and be loved, to know and be known. And Jesus is the ultimate satisfaction to that need that we find. And so it's by finding that, discovering that on a personal level, and then allowing him to influence all other areas of your life. I'd say that's where the gold is. That's worth digging for. It's worth striving for. It's worth taking time and investing in that relationship, and then just watching how that impacts every other area of your life. What's next for me is just living that out to a greater degree, looking for more opportunities to be of support and service where I am.
I love that.
I'm currently on my way to Zambia, really looking forward to partnering with the organization up there and looking for opportunities to be able to meet need and just build relationships along the way and look for opportunities to connect meaningfully. I think that life is all about connection and those relationships that we form, and I think it's worth taking the time to do that.
I love that. I love what I'm hearing. And Pastor Joel, thank you very much for spending some time here with us at Adventist Radio Pretoria, sharing your story and also some of the experiences and experience you've gained and gathered in mission work. And may Christ go with you, and may He lead wherever you're going. And we hope to see you here again, and hope to hear your voice on our air and podcasts and wherever you're listening to this. Again, Pastor Joel Slyde that was with us here in the studio. Pastor, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, listeners, there you have it. May you have a great and exciting day ahead of you. Once again, remember what Pastor Joel said. It's that impact you can make where you are at now. Start today. And if you can't start today, well, plan for it and start in the very near future to start making an impact in your community.